My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to this episode of Legally Clueless Podcast. Thank you so much for rocking with the pod. If you're a newbie, welcome to the family. Audio episodes of this particular show go out every single Monday. On Wednesdays, we have the midweek teas. We also have our newsletter go out then. And on Thursdays, we have For Mannerless Women. Although a bit of a heads up, For Mannerless Women is going to go on a Christmas and a New Year's break because it literally goes out on Thursdays. And Thursday is Christmas. And next Thursday is New Year's. So we're going to take a breather and we'll be back the week after New Year's. Cool? With For Mannerless Women. This particular show, you're going to keep getting it. And the midweek teas and your newsletter, you're going to get it throughout the holidays. So we're not going to leave you alone. Don't worry. We're still going to be together. And if you are an OG member, I've got nothing but love for you. Now, over the next 2 weeks, we are going to be listening to a very powerful story. Our storyteller's name is Victoria. And man, I've listened, so I have spoilers because I've listened to part 1 and part 2, and I'm just like, oh my word. It's definitely going to be one of those stories that's going to stay with you. I am pretty sure she's going to take us back to childhood. We're going to go into relationships. We're going to, which I think is the most important point, we're going to unpack various forms of abuse. Man, this is a powerful story. And this part 1 sets the foundation of her journey, right? And it's just going to help us understand how survival can become normal long before we even have the language for what we're carrying. But I'm going to let you listen to the story, part 1 of it anyways, and then we can chop it up when you're done, right? Okay, let's go. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
So I want to take you all the way back where this African lady started her life. In Nyeri. I was born in Nyeri. My grandparents lived in Karatina. My mom was a teenager. She was in high school when I was born. So naturally, after I was born, I went and lived with my grandparents. And that's where I called home for 5 years. After a year, my mother had to go back to school, but she went back to, should I call it adult education? Because she didn't go back to boarding school. She went to live with her sister in Garissa. That's the northern part of Kenya. So I was left in the care of my grandmother. And of course, there were other aunties and uncles back home. And that was the environment I grew up in. Now, you would imagine a small child in a household, an African household, where there are other children or other house members, so to speak, to be very well sorted because there are many adults or many older people. But for me, my early memories, I feel like everybody was busy doing their own thing. No one really paid attention to this little baby. And at age 4 to 5, I remember being sexually abused by my uncle, my mom's brother. Now, when you're that young and someone as old as, I don't know how old he was, I would have to calculate. But if he tells you don't say this or don't speak, that's what you do. In fact, you don't even know what that is. You just know it's painful, it's bad, and it was just a bad experience. But I had this, I used to call her Dolly, a teddy bear. That was my best friend who I would talk to, cuddle, comfort myself with. My mom would come once in a while. And I remember the exact spot I would be told, don't go beyond here. Now she's going. And the feeling I used to feel in my stomach when she's walking away, I feel it to date. Like that separation anxiety. When I think about it, I can feel it. So I was in that home for 5 years, and The day I turned 5, on my birthday, my mom got married. So I was moved from my rural home to now where my mom and this new guy I call Daddy moved to. So this was Garissa, that's where they met. So we started a new life. I was 5 years old. And when I was 7, that's when my little sister was born. So in these 2 years, I would say it was really good. It was nice bonding with my mom. I used to call her Grace. She had to bribe me for me to call her mom. Eventually it stuck, and eventually even for my dad, it stuck. I called him Dad. It was good traveling with them. He was a research scientist, a soil research scientist. So he would travel a lot to Garissa is very dry. Even the environment is very dry. So we would go to like places like Mpeketoni, Hola, the coastal regions where it's really dry just for his work. And that's where my love for travel began. So my sister is born, and I feel like all the attention now goes to this new baby. There is nothing I could do that was right. Oh my goodness. Typical African family. Now you're old enough, and I'm 7. You're old enough now, you can take care of yourself. By the time my sister gets to an age where we could probably now play, age 2, I'm shipped off to boarding school. So going to boarding school at 9 years old, honestly, feels like rejection. I was still very young. I was still in need of my mother especially. And now I've been taken to boarding school in our rural home from Garissa to central Kenya. I think we used to spend, back then, we used to spend 2 days on the road. The roads were non-existent. Sometimes we would use lorries to travel from Garissa to Nairobi, and then now we use matatus to connect. So I'm shipped up to boarding school. It's a new life, showering with cold water, taking care of myself. I'm not used to any of these things, learning how to, wash my clothes, all those things. They sound as if they are normal, but at 9 years old, it's a bit too young for a child to do those things on their own. So, and then I moved from school to school because the first school I go to was so bad. I remember I was so bullied. The stories I told my mom, she couldn't take it. So the next time I was taken to another school, which I thought was really nice. Over here, there were no chores. Like we had duties in the previous school. You'd wash classes, bathrooms and everything. In this new school, they had workers to do all the work. All we needed to do is show up, eat, and that's it. I think even our plates, we never used to wash the plates. So then I am in this school probably for class 4, 5, and 6. And then I moved to a very small school near my rural home. And this school is bad. First, it's near the mountains. The water is so cold, and we shower with cold water. The diet was bad. Like, we ate githeri every single day. And now because of I think the trauma of moving from this nice school to this other one, I started wetting my bed. So the shame of I wake up, I have peed on the bed, I need to clean the bed sheets and hang the mattress. And this is a cold area. Sometimes the mattress would not get dry, There was shame around it. But I think the teachers, I don't know what they saw in me because they wanted to give me more responsibilities. I was made a class prefect at some point. I was the head girl. Yeah, so I was here till class 8. Then I went to high school. High school was a whole different ballgame because it's a big, huge school. You're like maybe 600 of you. The backgrounds are different. People come from all over the country. And I remember telling people, you're asked, where do you come from? And I say Garissa. People are like, is that in Kenya? Like, I was surprised. People don't even know Garissa is in Kenya, And then because I've always been this tall girl, I always stood out. So there was just something about it. But high school was good because it allowed me to dream. I loved the art scene. I loved reading a lot. So it was nice to hear people's stories and sometimes even just imagine, oh, so how is Nairobi, living in Nairobi, wherever my friends were from. They have these, for me, were exotic stories, and it was nice, blissfully nice for a while until the teachers checked in. Oh, the teachers in high school, I don't know. I think we have a generation of teachers that need to be cancelled before they become teachers. They really, really spoke down at us. We were told we'll amount to nothing. They didn't think, because now in high school, it's that growing stage. You have nice long hair, and the teacher tells you, you will just amount to a prostitute. They would have all these bad things to say. And I was like, oh my God, me interacting with the fellow students was so nice. But when the teachers checked in, they made it so sad and so hard to be in high school. And then prefects were given so much power. A prefect would punish you, and they would just punish you because of anything, sometimes just because they don't like you, and you're sort of classified because, let's say my friends are from Nairobi. I wasn't, but I don't know why I was always bundled up with them. So they would say people from Nairobi maybe are proud. If anything goes wrong, it's people from Nairobi. And then I'm put over there and I'm like, but I'm not from Nairobi. But they wouldn't want to understand. Anyway, high school came and went. I loved writing a lot. I loved reading a lot. I finished high school in the year 2000, and this is in the wake of the new millennium. There's all these things going on, like, I don't know, in some sections, the world will end. In others, the computers, I don't know, will do what. There's a lot of talk about the new millennium. But I remember it was good for me. It was exciting for me to just leave high school and now be free. I don't have to be confined in this school. I start my life. I start off by living with a relative for a short while, but I quickly move on to Nairobi Amatallions. Then I get into University of Nairobi. So campus life is campus life. Lots of freedom, lots of, now you're getting to know yourself, your identity. We love to go for poetry nights. We love to, of course, go out and party. And there's also the studying part. But this is where you really are as an adult, like come to learn what is life really, that's 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. I would just say it just felt like a lot of freedom and a bit of bad choices, but you're young enough to have second chances to correct whatever mistakes you made. But all this time, I would say the underlying thing in my life is I feel like I exist alone. I really don't have a connection with my family because I got out of home. So if you're out of home at 9 years old, school holidays meant going to my grandmother's place, then back to school. I was never really home. I never connected with my sister. I never really connected with my mom. We would meet maybe December holidays were the long ones, is when we would meet as a family. But really, there was no connection. So there's this feeling of I'm alone. So I don't long to go home. Sometimes you do, shortly, then come back, So what happens, in hindsight, what happens is when people now want to include you in the stuff they want to include you in, you feel validated and you're always looking for that validation from people. So this comes out when now I start working at age 24. I'm working for an NGO and their colleagues, they invite me to go out and we go. This is maybe in 2007 at the point where in Kenya they used to call it mchele. I don't know what they call it now. It's where your drink is drugged. They put some drug in your drink and it knocks you out. So this happens. this is a colleague who does this, and like there was a party, we go out, my drink is drugged, and then we go back, I think, to one of the colleagues' homes. That's what the plan was for the weekend. And I wake up in the morning and I'm wondering, where am I? I look down beside the bed and I can see the panty I was wearing and the tampon I was wearing. And I'm like, what happened? I can't remember anything. So then it hits me, something bad really, really happened. So with my thoughts, everybody else is in the house. Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's telling me anything. I showered. I left. This is like a Sunday. Monday morning at the gate, a colleague who was not in the party meets me at the gate. She's like, oh, Vicky, I'm so sorry. I heard what happened. I'm like, what happened? I have no idea what happened. And she tells me, oh, I was told your drink was drugged and somebody raped you. She mentions the name and it's, of course, someone I know. And I'm like, and where did you get this information? She's like, that's all everybody's talking about. So then it's like I'm getting the information from them, yet it happened to me. So at that point, now I confirm, like, really, that's what happened. I asked for permission from work. Our offices were not too far from Nairobi Women's Hospital. So I walked to Nairobi Women's Hospital and I tell them what happened. They do tests and they put me on a 30-day antiretroviral treatment. They used to call it what? PrEP. Yeah, you get PEP. Yeah. Just in case whoever had HIV so that you don't get it. And back then, I think he used to take in the morning and night. I don't know how it is now. I know those things keep changing. So I take the pills and I would be nauseous and dizzy. I needed time before leaving home now for work. So I told my boss I'll be reporting late to work because I need the effects of the drugs to wear out before I go to work. She was very understanding. In fact, she told me I should pursue it with HR. But the 24-year-old me was very naive and I was like, if I pursue this, these people are going to lose their jobs. So on those grounds, I did not ask HR to do anything. But at the end of that year, a few months later, my best friend and I decided to go on holiday to South Africa. And it also coincided with the time where there was post-election violence. So when we wanted to come back, we were like, yes, we land at JKIA, the airport, but from there to wherever you're going, we are not sure the roads are clear. So we postponed our flights, I think, twice. On the third one, I told my friend, you know what? I don't think I'm going back. You go back. Let me think about what I want to do. Because even if I go back, I don't think I would go back to work in that work environment, seeing these people every day. You know, you see someone and your heart jumps like, this guy did this to me. You're supposed to see them every day and pretend that it's okay. It wasn't. So that's how I stayed in South Africa and stayed for the next 3 years. I actually found a job pretty quickly. For some reason, I found someone who needed my skills at their organization and I didn't even have a work permit, but they made it work. So when I decide to stay back in South Africa, I'm still on, I think they used to give us 3 months back then visa. I'm still on the 3-month visa. There was a condition that you need to leave and come back, but I'd gone to Botswana. We were going to see some work colleagues in Botswana. I had left, come back. So when the days were over, I was just illegal for a minute there. But also, my friend's cousin was in South Africa, so I put up with them for post-election violence happens in December. So for January, I put up with them, got the job in February. So at this point, the employer decides to just pay me in cash and she's housing me. We moved towns. We moved like 1,000 kilometers to where the job is. She's housing me and she's paying me in cash. So I was sorted in that way. But with time, you learn to navigate the system. So because of post-election violence, you go present yourself to the immigration offices and you tell them that this is what was happening in Kenya. You're not able to go back. So they give you papers. They call them what? Asylum papers. Yes. So with those, you can open a bank account. You can't leave the country, but you can go back to your country when you want to go back to your country, but you can't travel like to other countries because now you cannot use your passport. So that's how I stayed. They renew them every so often. Sometimes they give you 3 months, sometimes they give you a year. So that's how I legally stayed in South Africa for 3 years. When the job was over, I started working for insurance companies, and they also accepted those papers as part of your work permit, so to speak. So that is how I legally stayed there. I would say I have been lucky to always meet very good people because I was even in between, let's say, this job and the insurance company. I just met some Kenyans who were kind and housed me, showed me actually even this is how you navigate the insurance industry. This is how you do the job until I got on my feet. By the time I bought my first car, I'd already been taught how to drive. They were just good people around me, and they sort of were my guardian angels, and I was able to navigate that. My dad died. It was during the World Cup 2010. My dad dies, and I have to come back home and bury him. So it's at that time, though before he died, I had now made a decision I want to go back to Kenya. But I kept asking myself, when is the right time? Do I have enough money? Those questions. Now you've been away from home for 3 years. So what are you going back to do? Or what do you have? So when my dad dies, death is so sudden. So I had to travel suddenly. I just packed a small suitcase and left. That's how I leave South Africa, come back to Kenya, bury my dad. And then after this burial is when I meet who now becomes my husband. We start seeing each other, and it's very clear that we've decided we are settling down, and I decide I'm not going back to South Africa. So I was trying to wrap up some things while I was still here. Like I had a car to sell, a few things. But anyway, that's how I get back to Kenya. I get married and settle down to now being a wife. It takes a year before we do our formal wedding, and then I get my first baby. And it's at this point I realize I may have made a mistake because of how the relationship is turning out. It's not as good as I thought it would be, especially when the baby comes. So many things. I think when you're young in a relationship, you also don't even see, you don't know, you don't anticipate. You have your relationship, you and your partner, and then when the baby comes, the relationship really changes. And it's during this time I realize I was not doing well mentally. I had we call it what? There's a depression you get after getting a baby. Postpartum depression. Yes, I get postpartum depression. And somehow I give myself reasons to keep going. But my relationship was not good. There's a lot of abuse. It started emotionally. But with time, I would speak to people and they would say, that's how relationships are. That's how marriages are. Women are meant, you're the one who holds your home, make it work. So I'd go and give myself reasons to go on. I got the second baby. And it's after the second baby, actually, when it really hit me, this was a mistake. It just made the problems more. But I used the babies as an escape. So these babies were my whole life. Like, it was just me and the babies. In fact, I had no friendships, active friendships going. It was just me and the babies. And with time, I thought I would now start a business. I worked a little bit after the first baby, but it wasn't working out so well for me. First, it was it was corporate. Corporate can be very fast and taxing for a young mother. I thought that wasn't really working out for me, but also my husband would tell me they don't even pay you enough. So what are you doing there? Somehow the two won. This side I'm being told you're not being paid enough, and this side I'm thinking I feel like I'm neglecting my baby. So at some point I resigned. I stopped working. So after my second baby, I decided I'm going to get into business, and I start it was a skincare business at the time. No, I was doing supplies of fish and seafood to hotels, which went on for a while, but supplies it's tricky because people don't pay you in good time. So you find you're spending so much money and the money is not coming back as it should be. But it was good business experience, and I also now started my oldest son had a skin problem, and I discovered that I could mix oils using my hands to just cure the condition eczema, to cure it. So it's in the mixing of this I realized there's so many women who are like me and they could benefit from what I make at home. That's how I started selling the oils. I'd get oils from Uganda, mix them, and actually I was not selling, I was giving them to my friends. So at this point where the supply business comes crashing down, I decide I'm going to package them nicely and sell them. Back then it was not so popular like it is now. So when I started selling is when I saw the potential of the business, and my business, Shishi Naturals, was born at the time. And I did it just in the kitchen at home. Not much. Like, I couldn't do much because I was just at home, but that's how the business started. So as this is going on, at the back of this, I find out I'm pregnant with my third baby. This one was a surprise baby. This one was not planned for. But I'm like, it's okay, it's within the marriage, we'll make it work. So baby number 3 comes. I'm building the business slowly, but the relationship is really bad. There was lots and lots of abuse. I started running. That's how I used to find my me time to just get away from the kids and the house. I would run. I have run in this Nairobi. I have run from Buruburu to Uthiru and back. Like, the driving force was just me. That was just my time. It was my way. That was my therapy, I ran every day. I would run every chance I got. Running was my thing. Abuse comes in many forms. First, I tell women you should be able to discern whether this is love or control. Because looking from outside, people would see me. We used to even go for the grocery shopping in the market together. Looking from outside, you think, oh, she has such a nice husband who takes her shopping for her, groceries. But in my case, it was control. He would never give me money to buy tomatoes and onions. He had to be there to buy them himself, to choose them. I never even used to choose. If I choose, he says this is not as good as this, he will choose. And, we weigh them and then we buy them. So that's how abuse shows up. But women think, oh, he's so nice. He's coming shopping with me. And then when he knows he's really done something wrong and you're angry, soon after, let's say you're taken shopping. I remember at the time, I think Woolworths was new in the country. And I knew if he'd had this bad argument, I'd be taken to Woolworths and I'd be told, just choose whatever you want, Or he would travel and bring me a gift. But then it also graduated to being told you're a bad mother. Like when you see your firstborn, I don't know how to handle children. It's my first baby. I have no idea. I have never brought up a child. So the things I'm doing out of what? Motherly instinct. And he seems to know better. And instead of just telling me you could do this way, he just tells me I was told I'm a bad mother because when after giving birth, I didn't have milk to breastfeed my baby. So the nurses in their wisdom introduced the baby to formula, and the baby now got used to the formula. The baby did not want the breast. The formula, because of the bottle has more milk than what I could produce. So because of me not breastfeeding, and then those first days, the breasts are really painful even when the milk starts coming out, before the baby gets used to it or you get into the rhythm of breastfeeding. Oh my God, it's like you have two wounds attached to your chest. So it was so painful for me. I was also not looking forward to breastfeeding the baby. So I was called a bad mother. And that really hit me hard. I was like, what? How can he call me a bad mother? I'm trying, I'm in pain, and you're calling me a bad mother. So it started slowly like that because when we met, I just moved into his house. Some days he would tell me, you came in here with nothing. So if you're leaving me, you will leave with nothing. It started slowly like that. So by the time I'm doing baby number 3, it was big things like I really don't have money, no source of income. And because we had an argument, then he decides he's not leaving money for food. So you come in the evening and it's that sort of setup where there are those things you need to buy every day. Like at the time, I needed to get maybe milk, I needed fruit. I preferred buying every day because it's fresh fruit, So by evening, there is nothing. Though with time now, I learned to go tell the guy selling the fruits, the vendor, give me fruits, I'll pay you tomorrow. You find ways to go around it. I didn't talk until later. Like I told my mom these stories later. And now my mom's solutions were she'd give me money. But you see, that's not what I wanted. I wanted I want my relationship to work. Why don't we have our arguments or disagreements, but please make sure whatever we need is there. And you have a problem with me running a business. That was the other thing. He didn't want me to leave the home. So if I cannot run a business and you're not providing for me, then how does this work? To the extent where as women, we are told when you're given money, always save something. For me, I couldn't, because I'm supposed to account. If I'm given 1,000 bob to buy fruits and milk and bread, whatever is needed for that day, I'm supposed to account. If there is 20 shillings that was not accounted for, that would be drama. So how am I supposed to save anything? Then if I say I need money to buy pads, it's like this. How can you not buy your own pads? And I'm like, but I'm not working. Where else should I be getting this money from? You see? So with time, I learned to borrow money from my friends. Like, give me money. I don't know when I'll pay you back, but because I needed to buy my own stuff. I realized every time I asked money for my own needs, it was a problem. But as long as it's for the family, it's okay. Like he will shop, he will pay rent, he will do everything. But as long as it's not my needs, my personal needs, he's fine with it. So yeah, that's how abuse comes out. By the time now I was doing, and then I got pregnant with my 4th baby. This one now sent me straight to depression. I was like, I cannot bring in, and is this a PG-rated podcast? You realize your relationship has been so bad. You've stayed for almost a year without even being intimate. And then this one time you have this conversation and you think you're making up is when you get pregnant with another baby. And I'm like, oh my God, this cannot be happening. It's already so bad. I cannot have another baby. But I'm pregnant. And this baby comes with all sorts of problems. I become sick from day one. I'm bleeding from day one. I was put in hospital on bed rest for so long. But I did not accept that I was pregnant. I think until I was 6 months pregnant is when I was like, okay, so now I am pregnant. We are bringing another baby to this world. So, that's when my mind caught up. But the relationship was so bad I took myself to Chiromo Lane Medical Center. They have psychiatrists there. And I told she was called Dr. Judy, a very lovely psychiatrist. I told her, I can't go on. I feel like I'm about to explode. I need help. So we went through all the stuff I was going on, and she told me, you're actually not going back home. I'm admitting you. That's how I spent a month at Bustani. They have, let me call it a rehabilitation center for mental health patients. That's how I stayed there for a month. So you have talk therapy every day. They put you on meds. Now, because I was pregnant, they had to really control whatever pills they were giving me. It was good because of the break. I didn't have to deal with my abuser. By the time I'm getting here, I have there has been physical violence in terms of he used to choke me. When he would get so heated, he'd choke me. That was the way. But I keep saying to women, as women, men are stronger than us. Whatever the case, I'd say, like me, what defense can I put up? You're stronger than me. So if you want to kill me, you kill me. But there's a way he used to choke me. I feel like, I don't know, I had this moment. I feel like I died for a few seconds and then came back because I was standing over my body and I just saw him just do so easily. There's something he used to do over here and I would lose, I'd be unable to breathe. So that had happened so many times. And as I was pregnant with this baby, there's a time he slapped me. I actually went to the cops and they told me you need they call it a P3. So how do you get a P3 when I think they needed to see like the physical damage on your skin or something, and there was nothing. But I have been slapped and I have been choked. So I just went back home feeling so helpless. And then on another occasion, he now beat me up a good one. And then he called the cops. He told the watchman to call the cops. I had braids, and the way he beat me, he even plucked some braids off my head. And then he told the watchman to call the cops. By the time the cops came, I was taken to the cop station. He's the one who drove the car to the cop station. So these people, I didn't even know. I had no idea they were cops because I got into the house. After the beating, it was outside the house. I got into the house. So these two strange men come to the bedroom. I talk about it in my book, by the way. These two strange men come into the bedroom and they tell me we need to talk. So I get out. I'm just wearing some tights and a t-shirt and some house slippers. And when we get out, they're like, get into this car. So I'm wondering, who are these? I don't know them. And I asked them, what is this about? They're like, we need to talk. So I was like, so even if we need to talk, why are we talking to strangers? So I'm sandwiched at the back and my husband is the one driving. So he actually drove me to the cop station. So it clicks. As we drive out of the court, it clicks. Oh my goodness, these are cops. So, but it's midnight. I tried to call my sister. Her phone is off. I send her a text and I send my mom a text. But now when you get to the cop station, they take your phone. There's no communication. So we get there and I ask them, so what have I done? They're like, you're disturbing the peace. I'm like, people, why don't you ask my side of the story? He beat me up. You're supposed to be beaten up and shut up. So I was actually in the police cells for the night and the whole of the next day because I cried out for help because the neighbors came. But I was put in the cells, and you have not experienced trauma until you have spent a night in a Kenyan police cell. That place, it is cold. It smells of urine. Luckily, the people I found there were just, normal people. One was a bar owner. She had been arrested, I think, because she didn't have a license. And they were good people. They're not bad people. But just being there, just being in those. And then I remember, because I was breastfeeding. So now my My breasts are heavy with milk. And I think I was on my period. Yes. And I was thinking, okay, if this gets beyond morning, I don't know what I'm going to change into. When you try to talk to the cops, they're not very friendly. I mean, for them, anybody who comes in, you're not here because you're a nice person. You're here because you did something wrong. So even the way they speak to you, the way they handle you, you've watched in movies, people are given some time to go bask in the sun. We were taken out of ourselves. We basked for maybe 15 minutes, and we were told to go back in. Then I was told to clean some very filthy toilet. That experience, I will not lie to you, the trauma, I think it stayed with me for years after that. And then I leave the cells now. The next day, he waits up to 6 p.m. because my friends come. They try, even my sister. They try to get me out. And the guys are like, no, it's the OCS it was on the orders of the OCS. So us guys, we have no say in this. Even a lawyer comes, a friend who's a lawyer comes, and she's told the same thing. She's unable. In fact, she had come now already. Do we need bail money? And she was told, no, it's only the OCS who can give the go-ahead for me to be gotten out of there. So I waited up to 6 p.m. that evening, and when he comes with his sister. Now my husband, he comes with his sister, and as I'm getting out, I hear them saying, this one cannot go back to my house. But from the police cells to the house is a walking distance. So as they are behind me, I can hear them. Then he calls me to get into his car. I'm like, no, I can walk home. I'm good. So I call my sister. I tell her, hey, I'm hearing him telling his sister that I cannot go back to his house. So I tell my sister didn't live too far off. I call her and tell her, let's meet at the house. I think I just need to take the kids and leave. So she doesn't live too far off from me. We meet at the house. And by the time we get to the house, all my sisters-in-law, are they 6? I might forget. I think they were 6. I find them at the gate, plus my ex-husband there. And now they are shouting, they are insulting me, and I just look at them. These people were people who are as old as my mother, at least some of them, the older ones, they were as old as my mother. I look at them and I'm like, I can't even talk back to them. I look at them, I tell them, let me get into the house, because now they are at the gate, I can't get in. Let me get into the house. They're like, no, you're not getting into our brother's house. Today you will know this is, he also has his family. They talk and talk and talk, and the neighbors come out. A court setting. Yeah, it was really bad. So eventually what happens was I call my friend who's a lawyer, and she tells me, in such a case, you're not even safe being in that house. So it's just as well he doesn't want you. Don't sleep there. You don't know about your safety. So you just leave. And I'm like, but I have a breastfeeding child. So she told me, unfortunately now, how can you force him to give you the baby? And it's true, he refused with the babies. So I had to leave. They put my clothes in garbage bags and threw them outside. Then he called his friend who's a cab driver to take me to wherever I want to go. He will pay. So we just went to my sister's house. But I left without the baby. So when Dr. Judy tells me that I cannot go back home, I need to be admitted, she asked me to give her the number for my next of kin who should be called, because they have to call somebody to tell them that I'm getting admitted. And at Bustani, they don't give you the hospital gowns. You wear your normal clothes. So they need someone. They not only need to inform someone that you're not going back home, they also need to tell them to bring you your clothes and whatever personal effects you need from home. So he is called at that point, and he's very angry. And I just know at some point he will show up, but I cannot rely on him. So I call a friend and tell her what has happened. It's my friend now who quickly comes to Bustani. She just went, by those days, Tuskys used to sell clothes. She went to Tuskys and just got me whatever she would get for me to wear, and the personal effects I needed, she brought to me at Bustani. This guy shows up the next day at, I think, 4 p.m. And he was called immediately when I had gone to, let's say I had gone to Bustani at midnight the previous day. He shows up the next day at 4 p.m. So you see, if I was waiting for him, I would have really waited long. But he's at home. The kids are at home. I had a very good house girl, so I was confident the kids will be well taken care of for a period of time I was there. But they also gave permission for the children to be brought on Sundays. So on Sundays we'd have a picnic. But it never escaped me, the attitude, He would say it's a lot of work to bring the kids here. You should just get out. Whatever it is, I'm sure we can talk about it. And then he'd tell me, now when I'm here, I'm missing out on this and this. Like he would make me feel so guilty for him to even come and see me. So at some point, I told him, you don't have to come. We were allowed visitors every day. There were visiting hours, but I said, even for my mother, I told her, I don't need anyone to come. I need this time to be on my own. I need to sort myself out, because where I am right now, if I don't do this, I feel like it's the end of me. So I think the kids were brought twice to visit. And then now I left Bustani. So at this point where I find these in-laws, the feelings I was feeling, it's a lot of things. First, there's anger about everything that has happened. There's betrayal, like, how are you beaten up, taken to the cells, and now you're thrown out of your own home? There is anxiety. There is, my heart now is crying out for my kids. It was already a night for a baby not to breastfeed, and now I can still have access to them. And then I can hear them from over the gate. I can hear them crying. They can hear me. They know. They can hear me talking. So they know I'm outside, but they can't come outside. And especially the little one. Her cry, oh my goodness, that one broke me. So it was really bad. But once I leave, let me go back to Chiromo. Once I leave Chiromo, 2 weeks later, I get out. I'm going back to the environment that made me want to leave. So we have an argument 2 weeks later. And I'm like, no, I've had it. I can't continue like this. So all the pills I was given on discharge, I took all of them and passed out in the bedroom.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. Man, there is just so much to take away from this story. And this is just part one. So first, let me say, part two is going to be out next week. So make sure wherever you're listening to this episode on, you subscribe so you do not miss out. Please, as someone who has the spoilers of part two, you don't want to miss out on it. So subscribe. That's one. The other thing is, oh my word, this is such an important thing that I took away from the story. And I'm only going to share this one thing because it's the one thing I want you to take away. Abuse for so many years has been presented to us as being only physical. And then on top of that, because of socialization, a lot of emotional abuse is normalized and accepted as that's just how men are. Yet it's emotional abuse, right? Even financial abuse. Let me tell you something else. Financial abuse globally has overtaken physical abuse and emotional abuse. It sits at the top alongside reproductive abuse as the most common forms of abuse that women encounter in intimate relationships. Now, these are so tricky because sociocultural norms make it hard for you to figure out and name what you're experiencing as abuse, but your body and mind reacts to the abuse as abuse. You are feeling discomfort, you are feeling heartbroken, you are feeling traumatized, but you don't know why, because socially, even you have been socialized to believe things that are emotional abuse are not abusive. And I'm not a psychologist, but I implore you to read. Read the ways emotional abuse manifests. Please do. I had to do this because of one particular relationship I was in. And it's so freeing once you have the terminology for what you are experiencing. You know something is off in your relationship. You know it, but you don't have the name for it yet. Read up on emotional abuse. Read up on financial abuse. Read up on how control shows up. I'll give you an example. I was once in a relationship and my best friend and I laugh about this. Now we can laugh because we're so far away from the relationship. But I was in a relationship where this guy would show up wherever I was, right? And I was okay, I don't want to say I was younger because honestly, I was old enough to know better, but I was younger than I am now. And I would be out with this particular girlfriend. He would just show up. I would be out on a girls' night out. He would just show up. And at the time, because we were so young and naive and we laugh about it now, we literally would say, oh, this guy is so sweet. Like he just can't stand to be away from me. Fast forward one time in that relationship, this particular guy wanted to put a tracker on my car. Guys, it is so important for you to start unlearning what abuse looks like. It does not only look like it's physical, right? It does not only leave physical scars and bruises. It lives in words. It lives in controlling behaviors. It lives in things when we talk about finances, things that we're made to think, oh yeah, the man is the one who is meant to handle all of the money. I have no problem if that's what floats your boat in your relationship. I really try hard not to set standards for other people's relationships. What works for me, doesn't have to work for you. That's one. But understand the ramifications of you not having money as a woman in a relationship. Understand how control can weasel its way in when only one person in the relationship is controlling the finances, right? Just please read up on financial abuse and emotional abuse. We're in the holiday time. You may have a couple of hours to spare. I implore you to read up about these things. Anyway, I want to know what stayed and landed with you or what you connected with in part 1 of Victoria's story. When we come back next week, part 2 is going to be coming your way. So make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this on. Remember that if you too want to share your story on this podcast, all you have to do is fill out our storyteller form. Link is in the show notes. Also in the show notes is a link to our social media platforms. Kindly follow and join us over there as well. And yeah. This story, it's hit so close to home. So close to home. My goodness. I am so thankful to you for listening to this episode to the very end. Number 1, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I'm sending you so much love. And number 2, please always know that I think that you have every single thing it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.